Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Erica Wiederlight is a renowned confidence coach, speaker, and the host of the top-rated podcast, Welcome to the Wiederlife, specializing in self-love, dating, embodiment, pleasure, burnout, and sexual empowerment. Erica guides her clients from feeling dusty, crusty to fabulous and radiant. Her influential work has been featured in New York Fashion Week, Galore, and Cosmopolitan magazine. Erica offers a limited number of free 60-minute Mojo Makeovers assessments to help individuals boost their confidence and revitalize their love lives. For more on Erica's transformative approach and to access her free ebook, From Perfectionist to Pleasure Expert, visit her website at www.WeTheLight, TheLight.org, or follow her on Instagram at WeTheLight_LLC. All right. We already got all that stuff. Those will also be in the show notes. But Erica, I'm so excited that you're on my show. I love talking to fellow podcasters and just women who uplift other women, because I feel like we're in a place in our lives now where we're helping other women. Before it was like mean girls were just like, ew, why are you doing that? Frenemies, all those in high school that I had to deal with. No longer my friends anymore. But it's so amazing to meet people like you who just change the world. And so thank you.
Oh my God, crying. Thank you too.
Of course. And I would just love for you to go ahead and share with our audience, like what led you to become a confidence and pleasure coach, and what also inspired you to go ahead and focus on this unique blend of life, sex, love, relationship, healing, and coaching.
Okay, so I always laugh because if I knew what I was doing, even 15 years ago, I'd be like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? Just like, absolutely not. That's so vulnerable. I was just in a place of genuine self-hatred and being mean to myself that I was like, are you kidding? Like, I remember thinking, and I was talking about this with someone the other day, I accepted it at one point, which is just that's so tragic, but I accepted. I said to myself, I guess this is what life is going to be. I guess I'm just going to hate myself. I guess I'm always going to have issues with my body. And I came to that and I was like, oh. And so why I felt called, I never in a million years wanted to have my own business. I never in a million years even knew what coaching was. I had a very different vision for myself, but it's because of the path that I took that I was like, oh, I must help others. You know what I mean? Because I knew in my darkest hour, I was like, no one could help me. And through this work, I was like, oh, like the quintessential, if I can do it, you could do it, type thing. And that's kind of honestly how I got here. And it wasn't an intention of, oh, let's start a business now. It was like, I was resistant to it, but I was like, let me have folks over. And I didn't realize this, it was a workshop, or let me have someone over. I didn't realize it was a coaching session, but it started like, I'm not having a business. I'm not starting a business. I'm just helping people. And then from there, I was like, okay, universe, you know what I mean? Like, I see what you're doing. Let's rock this. So honestly, how this came about and this very, very specific sauce of what I do is from a place of me going within and healing within myself.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And it starts with ourselves. It was like some of my friends, they would go to them, to other friends and say, hey, I need help with the relationship. But that friend didn't even have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They're just like, why are you going to go to someone who,
You're
who
like,
doesn't
what?
have a relationship? Same thing with, when it comes to loving ourselves. People come to me
Yes.
with problems like, I can't help you because I couldn't even help myself, but I tried. And then I
Yeah.
noticed that I was just trying to people please and help them so much that I kind of forgot about myself. I'm like, well, what about Gina? What about
Right.
Gina? And so I really had to like do some inner work, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, now
I hear that.
yeah. Now your work integrates with like talk therapy with some somatic embodiment practices as well. Can you actually go ahead and
Yes.
explain how this combination enhances the healing process and maybe perhaps even share some transformative experience that you observed in your clients?
I love this. Okay, so it has been so helpful to blend both and to blend tools with visualization, with somatic practices, with more talk therapy, because everyone walks in the door at a different place, right? So I may have folks that will walk in, to the Zoom room and be like, I could close my, not that we ever do, but like I could close my eyes for an hour and go into a deep visualization. And some people, and this is cool, will take 7 months to just close their eyes. They're like, that's way too confronting. Like, that's way too confronting to even do this exercise. Can we talk around it, or can we talk about it? And so for me, I want to make sure that I have tools and technology to support everyone where they're at. That's really important for me, that I could really hold them where they're at. And that's why for me, I really, and again, I'm an ADHDer. So, so
Love them.
truth be told, so for me personally, and if someone might always just want one flavor, but I'm a person that needs all the flavors. Like that's just such an Erica personality that I'm like, I need a little this, I need a little that. Like that's just how I operate in the world. Some clients are like, Erica, I want one note. Can we keep that through? And I'm like, of course. But for me, that was so transformative, mixing and matching. And that's kind of a method to why I do it. Is sometimes it's appropriate for this, sometimes it's appropriate for that. And that's why to hold people at the deepest level that I can hold them.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about somatic practices. For some of our listeners who probably have never even heard of that term before, can you go ahead and bring some insight or light to what that is and how it can actually help individuals?
Yeah, so it's funny, I actually had to use that practice right this moment by breathing.
Yeah.
For me, somatic work and embodiment is quite literally being in your body. And, we throw that around in this industry, be in your body, be in your body. And so many people are like, what does that mean? I am in my body. Where else would I be? Like what are you talking? What other option is there? And there's like,
Yeah.
there's a shame, or there's a question of that, of what does that even mean? And so a lot of my work is genuinely getting back into your body. Before we hopped on this call, I kind of noticed I was in a little bit of robot mode, right? Like I had a full day, a full work day, and it was very available for me to just be like, let me just hop on, check it off. And I was like, ooh, I'm not in my body. I still feel it. Like I still feel up in my head, but I was like, I need to drop into my body. So I took a few minutes. I put on quite literally one song. I was breathing and very, very gently and very slowly moving my body to music, just to be like, "Oh, hello. Here I am." So like coming back to ourselves, and I won't go on a tangent, but I do want to say this, that's why I'm obsessed with the pleasure work, because the power of pleasure gets us back into the moment. It gets us back into our body. We can't really be in pleasure, really, if we're in our head, if we're ripped out of our body into our head, if we're ripping things apart, criticizing, like, the pleasure work, even if it's sipping a kombucha, can be so powerful because we're really in the now and in our body. So that's like a cliff notes, but I'm like, I have to tell you about that. I have to presence that.
Yes. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Now, pleasure, I'm thinking of other pleasure. You're talking about, I
Yes.
mean, I guess it could be any way we want to pleasure ourselves. And it could be out walking outside. It could be going to get a massage. It could be like a ritual, right?
It's exactly, and I wanna say this, so I always say to people, it depends where I meet them, but I'm like, "Oh, I do pleasure-based work." They're like, "Excuse me?" Like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, okay, okay." So, often, clients, we will talk about sexual and sensual empowerment, but often that's very confronting right away,
Yeah.
right? It's like, "Whoa, whoa." So I'm like, "Can we just start with, like you said, can I actually be present when I'm going for a walk? Can I actually taste and it's not always available, but can I taste the textures in this kombucha? Because so often we live on autopilot and we
Yeah.
have no idea what the heck just like, we're like, this kind of happened this week, or this was kind of my day, but we're so rarely present that the pleasure work, exactly what you said, brings you online to your life. That you're like, oh, this is what's happening. Here I am. I feel more playing and in with my life than just, like, me watching it kinda go by.
Yeah, speaking of robot, I think I was at this morning when I was just in my head, but not talking negatively to myself at all, just thinking about my things to do. And I was taking my supplements, I take a lot of like, great supplements, and I was like, "Oh shoot, did I take this one?"
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't even, it was like a routine. And I had to like stop and think. And then I asked myself, did I take this? And I got no. I said, okay, I'm gonna take it. If I get sick, then oh well. But so I'm like, okay. But it's so true. We get into these habits and we're just constantly like in a robot mode, especially when it comes to work, the
Yeah.
job and working for corporate or what if you're unhappy, especially and you're in traffic, and then I'm talking about myself in the past. I was always in traffic.
Totally.
I would have to punch in, be there. Do I really like my job? Do I really want to be here? Yes, no, maybe. Punch out, be in traffic, and then come home and not feel good, not feel fulfilled. So I'm so happy you brought the pleasure concept, because it is important for us to take those moments for ourselves and just be still, pause, and then
Yes.
you, like you said, observe. Like today, I was
Yes.
actually cleaning my mom's yard, and I just wanted to pay attention to a beautiful butterfly because I was watering the plants and everything. And then I saw a butterfly and I just wanted to stop my work and just look at the butterfly and just notice its texture, its
Yeah.
coloring, the way it was just moving, what it was doing. And those moments of stillness actually made me happier just to look at that.
Yes.
And I love that you brought that up. So thank you.
Of course. I want to say something really quick if I may,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I know, we talked earlier about like, a lot of my work is self-love and how I told you like I had a really tumultuous relationship with my body and with myself and I did everything, right? Like therapy, which was very helpful and a privilege to do. And the pleasure work was one of the most transformative things for the self-love journey for me, which is so crazy because like you said with the butterfly example, when you're in pleasure, you're less likely to judge, right? Like the butterfly, you weren't like, "Why is the yellow this yellow?" Or like, "What about" you're just like, "Oh my god, look at that." Like you're more dropped in to your body. You're more in the awe and the magic of, "Wow, what a magnificent," I'm being corny, but miraculous creature. And that's how I got with myself because I when I was in my when I was in my head and not in my body, I would rip myself to absolute shreds, but when I was in the pleasure work, I was in my body and I saw myself like a child. Like, what a like, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm a work of art." Like, had that perspective, so I wanted to say that with the butterfly example because when we're in that pleasure, we could really take in the magic and be in awe of life, not nitpicking and criticizing. So I just wanted thanks for bringing that up. I was like, "I have to say this really quick."
Yes, no, please do. And talking about like your inner child, I actually have a picture of myself on my cell phone of my little younger self as
Yes.
the background, because I have to give her compassion
Yeah,
and love, because she was traumatized as a little girl with
yeah.
things that happened to her. And I have to say, it's none of this is your fault. You're
Yes.
fine. You're good. You are magnificent. You are magic. And I think
Yes.
children have so many possibilities because they have such a big imagination. That
Yes.
imagination for those children, I can see it with my kids. I can see it with children I've worked with in the past, when I used to serve and watch children. And they're just so magical. And why did we have to change? Like
No.
we're just
I
adults
know.
and human, like we're still children. We're
I
just in these
know.
bodies, and it's okay. These bodies are fun. Yes, I have back pain right now, but like you did earlier, some movement. I did that yesterday because I'm like, I feel like I have like trapped energy stuck in like my sacral area here. And I'm like, I need to move my body. So I was just like doing some movement. Now I'm a little bit sore from those movements yesterday, but I think they were necessary. But I felt better this morning when I woke up. I felt like I feel more energized. Anyway,
Yes.
I
I
went off
love
on a
that.
tangent.
No, you did. I was like, "Yes, I love it. I love it." I think it's helpful too, sidebar, it's helpful to hear because, again, I've taught so many workshops and classes, and people were like, what does it even mean to be in your body?"
Yeah.
And, classes, and people were like, "Oh, that's what it means to be in your body. I never knew that before." So I think it's helpful that you're sharing that because people could say, "Oh, that's what it means. That's an example of, oh, I felt a creak in my back. I'm going to move through it." So often we are disconnected from that. So I just want to say, like, that is great that you're sharing. I think we need to have more of that so so it's normalized. You know what I mean?
I know, I know. That's what we're trying to do on these podcasts. We're trying to
Yes.
share this message so people can understand it's available and it's free.
Yes. 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 Thank God.
It's free.
Yes.
It's always good to just definitely have a coach to help you and guide you. But I mean, you can do these practices at home and make it into like a morning routine, a morning ritual.
Yes.
And you start off like that, and you're gonna have a great day. You'll see.
Oh yeah. I always laugh because everyone's like, "Oh no," like my clients, and I'm like, "I know it's annoying. The work works." I'm like, "This, it's it's annoying, but it works. Like there's something to this stuff that there's power, and like you said, there's magic in it. It's beautiful."
Yeah. And then the practices, I think that people just kind of give up because they're like not used to it. But
Yes.
just take those little smaller steps, don't have to go gung ho right away. Just little by little, start doing a little change, something different.
Yeah.
And then it'll build, 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 build. And then you'll see like it's part of your life all of a sudden. You're like, whoa,
It's true. You're like, "Oh my
who's
gosh,
this?
when did you get here?"
Who's this person here? Yeah. So I love that. Now you've had the opportunity to lead workshops in various places like the New York Fashion Week. Can you actually share a memorable experiment? Well, maybe it's an experiment,
I
an,
mean, hey.
an experiment experience in this type of environment where it created an impact.
Yeah, oh, it's the best. And the entrepreneurial journey can be a tough one. And for me, this is always my why. Like leaving when people walk out of the workshop with transformation, when a one-on-one client works and they're like, "Oh my God, that changed my life." That's why I keep coming back to this. You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, "Oh man, like I'm in this. I love this so much." I've seen so many things kind of talking what we talked about before with like now I know what it's like to be in my body. I'm starting to have love in my body. I'm starting to grow love and respect for myself. Like these things to watch this be the norm, I don't take it lightly. You know what I mean? Cuz it's like I don't take that lightly watching people change. I mean, it's really I could cry. You know what I mean? Watching people have a relationship like I did, like self-hatred and wrongness to celebration and loving themselves and knowing how to listen to themselves. I mean, you know the deal. There's nothing better. There's truly nothing better than watching that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, seeing your clients transform and just right in front of your eyes, it's such a liberating feeling too, because you're like, wow, you feel their freedom.
Yes, you're like, "Oh my gosh, yes." Exactly. Exactly. There's so much truth to that.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about your podcast. Welcome to the
Yes.
Wiederlife. I love that. And I know that's definitely achieved like significant recognition.
You.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yay.
you.
What themes do you go ahead and explore on your podcast? And what do you believe are the key factors behind its success?
Ooh, I love that. I am, probably to a fault, like, not inauthentically, very authentically myself. And it actually has given me a lot of, permission, especially since it's a podcast. I don't do video. So I just got which has given me, again, my ADHD brain. I'm like, "DTT." So it's really given me, like, freedom to just bleh and go to and be in my truth. And honestly, I am a recovering and will always have this people person, people
Mm.
pleaser. And I consistently edit myself and I've worked on it for years and I'm watching myself stand in my truth more and more and more. But I love it because it's given me an avenue to do that more freely, you know? When I'm in my work, the truth is the truth, but I notice Erica being a person out in society, I see myself contort, and the podcast has really given me liberation of like, I'm not going to be fake. Like that, I'm not why even do this thing? You know what I mean? Like, why do this thing if I'm gonna be not transparent and not in alignment. I think that's part of why, and I always it's so funny, like, I'll see people and I'll reference something, they're like, "I had no idea." I'm like, "What are you talking about? How'd you know that?" They're like, "You said it on your podcast." I was like, "Oh, no." But, I'm like, "I didn't realize." But I think that's part of the success is I'm myself, like, I'm really myself on it. I am don't edit how I show up in the world on the podcast. And for me, I started it thinking it was going to be super niche. And in ways it is, right? Like there's sexuality and pleasure and love and body love and spirituality. And I just have to be me. And like it's almost like when I get inspiration, I go. You know what I mean? So it's almost for me like a blog post where I'm like, oh my gosh. A lot of times it's like my client had this revelation. Let's talk about this. So it's a mix of my work, but it is usually within the realms of the topics that we're covering today. But I'm like, I just have to go where the inspiration is. You know what I mean? That's my free flowing ADHD brain.
No, that's great. And that's why I love having podcasts, is because you get to be yourself. And a lot of times we're censored a lot on social media if we can't really speak whatever we
Yes.
want to, or whatever our truth is that we'd like to share to others. A lot of censorship. But now it's like with these podcasts, it's like you can really be your authentic self and just be like Erica or be Gina. We can be
Yes.
ourselves and it's fun. And then you meet other people who are like, hey, by the way, I listened to your episode and it really changed my life. And then those are such the rewarding moments and you feel so happy and you're like, yes, I'm making a difference in this world.
It's
And
true.
it is true. And I'm seeing it more so now that people are becoming more their authentic being, their spiritual self. Which is
Yes.
amazing, because back to the robot conditioned world, like the media, TV, movies, the glamorization of like even alcohol, for myself,
Yeah.
because I'm a recovered alcoholic. And they wanted us a certain way, like our bodies to look a certain way. I would
Yes.
always look at the Victoria's Secret models and be like, why can't I look like that? Okay. It's impossible, by the way, because my body's not designed that way.
Right.
And I needed to start loving me as me and see how whatever best version of Gina can be, let's get her there. My higher
Yes.
consciousness, my highest self. Let's see what she's doing, how she's acting, how she's responding, how she's just behaving.
Yes. That makes me want to cry. I love that.
Oh, but
I love it. I'm like,
it's
yes.
true. It's true. And so I'm so happy that we're in the shift, I think, in this world, that now we get to be ourselves. And then people are like, okay, if they're being themselves, and I think it's okay for me to be myself too. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Please, listeners,
Yes.
be yourself. If you're mean, then well, that's why there's coaches to help you get through that
Yes.
anger. Hey, I was angry too. I had anger issues. I've been in jail before because of my anger issues, but look at me now. I can
Yes.
be done. So,
Yes. I love it. Like you said, it's so refreshing when
yeah,
you're just around someone. And I always say this to people. People are like, it's selfish to do this work. It's selfish to do this work. I'm like, you are giving others a gift
yeah,
when you are truly in your radiance and in your, special sauce. Because someone's like, oh, they're doing it. I can do that. It's that permission. So I love that you said that because I think there's so much truth to that.
and a lot of times
Oh,
our pain is turns into our purpose.
yes.
Like I had to become vulnerable. Like what was vulnerability back then? I had no idea. I just had to put a front. Like I'm okay. People ask, Gina, how are you? Oh, I'm great. But I was dying inside, literally dying
Yeah.
inside. Now I'm just like, if I'm not feeling well, they're like, Jen, how are you? I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing so good. And I'm okay saying that. And it's okay.
Yes. It's
We're,
refreshing. I'm like, thank God when someone's like, I'm not well right now. I'm like, great, let's talk about it. Like, I'm glad we're not doing the fake stuff. You know what I mean? Like, great, let's get into this.
that
Yeah,
was me,
I
Mrs.
love that.
Fake. Yeah, I was always fake. I remember back in the day. I mean, back in the day, this is not too long ago, actually. I actually had a fast healing, I guess. I don't know, fast transformation,
Yeah,
quantum leap,
amazing.
quantum leap.
Yes.
Say that.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about sexuality. We don't really talk too much about sexuality on this podcast. I do have guests who come on once in a while. I'm like, yes, let's talk about
Let's
sex.
do it.
Because, body shaming, we're always in that criticism, self-criticism mode. You've actually helped individuals overcome feelings of brokenness, inadequacy, and shame related to their sexuality.
Totally.
How do you help them?
Oh my gosh, such a journey, but it's such a journey. And first and foremost, the first thing that's coming to my head is journey. But second is we have to get underneath our stories around pleasure, sex, sensuality, because we're not going to run towards it. You know what I mean? I think people are like, I'm going to work with you and I'm going to be like this. I'm like, well, wait, hold on. Like, before we even go into that place, it's like, what stories are you holding around sexuality? Someone or pleasure, someone might say it's disgusting. It's this, pleasure is a treat that you get at the end. And I'm like, before we go jump, we need to comb through what beliefs, what you were taught from society, culture, religion, all the things about sex for us to feel into. Are these my truths? And then a big part of my work too is also deconditioning, right? But then again, with back to the truth part is like, what's your truth in this conversation? I think so often, especially with sexuality, people go into what they think they should do or what they should be. It's, a very performative place, so people are like, oh, okay, I'm going to do your work. And then I'm going to be, and they have a vision of like, I'm going to wear and I'm like, great. If that's for you, like, I love that. I support that journey for you, but that might not be your true essence. And so when have we ever really made a space to know our true essence? That's not really a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's not something we talk about. So, that's what part of my work of like, that's great. What's your truth? Let's let go of the performing. Let's let go of what you think it should look like, what you think people think is hot, what you think will generate a response. What is your actual truth? And then making that safe. So it's funny. I think a lot of times people hear, "Oh, you do sexual empowerment." And they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "No, it's no, it's a spiritual journey." You know what I mean? Like I'm like, it is fabulous and fun and spicy, but it is confronting in the best way. Is like it's confronting, and we're being really honest with ourselves. And there's something very sobering about being so real with our truth, and it's beautiful, and it's the best, and all the things. So yeah, that's kind of like a little look at how we start to get there.
Yes, and being naked takes you're being vulnerable doing that.
Yes.
My goal, I
Yes.
remember I was telling one of the, what is it? I was signing up for 24-hour fitness. This was back in the days of like in my 20s. The guy had asked, so what's your goal? I said, you know what? I just want to be comfortable looking at myself naked.
Yes. Yeah, it's confronting.
To this day, it's the same goal.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Because I've had the yo-yo diets, where it's like I was even a weight loss consultant in my past life as well for a company. And I was at 210 pounds and I've been 129 pounds. So, I mean, you do the
Yes. Yeah,
no, and
totally.
after a couple of kids, it's a little bit hard. I think I was very unhealthy and doing other things when I was 129 pounds.
Right.
But that was also in my early 20s when I was just partying and working and going to school at the same time. That was a mess, by the way. But I really look at myself in the mirror now and I will embrace even my scars that I have from my children, stretch marks and C-section scar. And I'd be like, you know what? I love those scars because it's a reminder of how I am a mother. And then I will look
Yes.
at my legs and yes, I have cellulite, but you know what? I have a body brush. And that's one of my evening rituals that I do is I have a body brush and that helps smooth the skin. Okay. So dry body brush. I
Yeah,
also
I'm like,
work,
"Ooh."
I'm in the spa world as well. I did massage therapy for like 17 years now.
Oh,
That's a
yes.
long time. So I have all the tools and stuff. But really just looking at yourself in the mirror and just at least say something nice about yourself. One thing that you love about yourself, whether it's your lips, your eyes. I'm sure you can find something that you love about yourself. One thing at least.
Yes, exactly. It's so funny because it's like a lot of the work that I do, and my teacher used to say this. She'd say, "This work is the easiest thing to conceptually understand." Right? Like people may be listening and be like, "Guys, duh, of course," but
Yeah.
it's one of the hardest things to put into practice. Right? Because it's like, oh yeah, I could say something. I could say something nice about myself in the mirror. I could compliment myself, and it's like, and I do this with my clients. They're like, yeah, it'll be fine. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And they're like, damn you, they're like, no, I don't want to. And I'm like, let's give me a baby celebration. You're on a Zoom, like we're sitting on a Zoom. Tell me what you like about yourself today. And they're like, like this is so confronting. But I think that's great. It's like let's just start with, like you said, one celebration, one little baby thing, because we could find it, and we deserve to find the things that are right about ourselves. We deserve to celebrate ourselves.
Yeah. So there's only one you.
Right. Right. And we're not going to get the life that we want through being cruel to ourselves. I know it. I know we're taught that, like it's in the programming, like
Hmm.
we're taught through society that like, okay, if you're cruel enough to yourself, if you, blood, sweat, and tears, that you're gonna get a reward at the end of the tunnel. That's not how it works. Like we can't be so cruel to ourselves and then all of a sudden life's gonna be happiness. So we're the ones that have to give this love to ourselves, you know?
With grace and compassion. I always say this, grace and compassion, give yourself that grace and compassion. Because,
Yes.
I still catch myself saying something negative to
Oh
myself. And I'm like,
yeah.
wait, stop, Gina, stop.
You're like, what are you
What are
doing?
you
No,
doing?
not that.
But we're just human beings and we're trying to get out of this program state. And I think right now,
Yes.
and people are changing too, because they're noticing that, hey, I am programmed. Let me let me get back to
Right.
my original self, your spiritual self, your true self. And I always tell them, your higher self is already out there. She's just waiting for you to catch up.
Yes, exactly. And that's through that's through this work. That's through talking to
Yes.
ourselves nicely. It's harder to get there when we are mean to ourselves. And like you said, compassion and grace, because we're humans. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that's par for the course that we're gonna have days that we're mean to ourselves. And there's gonna have days that I have days where I'm like, oh, I forgot I teach pleasure. Like I probably should get back on that, So we forget it's literally part of the work. And then it's getting back up and getting back up and keep getting back up,
Yeah, it's like that Chumbawamba song. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that them from the 90s.
I'm crying. Of course, I get knocked down.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
It took me a second. I was like, "What's on?" And then I was like, "Oh my god, yes, you're so right."
So, yes, that's from my days, and I love that song. I still love that song.
It's so me too. Every time I'm like, "Oh my god, this is it slaps for some reason." It really does the job.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm like, "This is so good."
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can talk to you forever. But I mean, I already said your website and everything, but maybe you can say it for for our audience one more
Yes.
time. Where can they follow you and find you?
Of course, really briefly too, I'm big into like we said, this should be available for everyone. I really genuinely believe that. I don't think it's fair that, whatever, I go on tangent on that. I won't. But this work should be accessible to everyone.
Yes.
And I believe in that. So I really have a ton of free resources for people to start their journey or however I can help um hold. And so they can get those resources at www.wethelight.org, wethelight.org. I have a free ebook, podcast, all the goods. And then we also have that free 60-minute session. It's for realsies, no strings attached, like for reals. And it helps us kind of talk what we talked about today, like what feels crunchy, what feels stuck, what feels dusty, crusty. How can we shed that? How can we create that pleasure? How can we recreate, like we talked about, that like getting in touch with the higher self? How can we create space for that? That's for real, a 60-minute call, totally free. If we jam, maybe we work together. Like that's a side conversation, but it really is my gift back. It's part of my why I do this, right? Is I want people to have access to this work. So like I said, all those resources are wethelight.org. And if you're like, I don't know, let me follow you on Insta first and let's, keep in touch. That's cool too. That's wethelight_LLC. I'm big into communication and community. So DM me for real. If anything came up or people want to chat or connect, I'm always here for those combos as well. So thank you.
That is amazing that you offer 60. I mean, hop on hop
That's
on
what
our
I'm saying.
call,
I'm like,
people.
guys, for real. It's actually really no strings attached. So do like I said it in a newsletter. I was like, do it. You know what I mean? It's a free resource. And the good thing is some people are like, oh, Erica, I'm actually looking for this. Like, do you have this type of therapist or this? I'm like, yeah, here. Like, so take me up on it. It's a free resource. And I'll give you
Wow.
more resources. So I always say, like, take it and see what happens. So yeah, thanks for shouting that out.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. Any last words or thoughts you'd like to share with our
Yes.
listeners?
Oh, this was so fun. The last words I think is follow your intuition with this work, right? Because I think we touched base on so many good things like pleasure and sexual, all the things. And I know it's probably like, oh, like it could be overwhelming. So it's like follow the breadcrumbs, follow the intuition. I think that's how I got here. And I hope that's how I continue to grow is I followed the kernels where I was like, I don't know why, but this thing is lighting me up. I'm gonna follow it. I don't know why, but I'm lit up here. I'm going to follow it. So I always say follow what lights you up, listen to your intuition, um, and the empowerment of really listening to your body. And I know that's a whole conversation and even if today it's like, I don't know what that means, slowly allow yourself to get that message. I think that's important because sometimes people are like, I don't even know yet. I'm starting to wrap my brain around it. It's like, let's just start to marinate in that. So that's my advice is follow the intuition, follow your gold nuggets, the things that light you up. Um, and pleasure too. I know you said one, but I've given you so many. That's the last one. But pleasure. Follow your pleasure too. I have to throw it in there.
Do you remember the Janet Jackson song Pleasure Principle?
Yes.
That just came to my head right now. I'm like, oh, Pleasure Principle.
I love it. So good.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Erica. I had so much fun talking with you today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.